and welcome to 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking three powerful questions. I'm your host, Rachel Vogel, and joining us tonight is none other than Drew Thurlow, Senior Vice President of A&R at Sony Music Masterworks. Drew previously spent 6 years as Director of Artist Partnerships and Industry Relations at Pandora, where he helped oversee the company's growing role in the music business. This included building, booking, and executing Pandora's music marketing program and helping drive the artist and brand partnership strategy across the platform. Prior to that, he spent 6 years at Nonesuch Records, where he worked across their marketing and A&R departments with musicians from rock bands to classical composers. So, Drew, it is an honor to have you join us. How's it going?
It's an honor to be here. We're great.
All right, well, with that energy, are you ready to dive in?
Sure are.
Imagine for a second you're sitting down with your 25-year-old self. What one piece of advice would you give him on a personal note? And what one piece of advice would you give him from a business perspective?
Well, uh, those are two different questions, but also somewhat related. I think the answer to an overarching answer would be follow your instincts. It can be daunting to figure out where you fit and what you want to do. But I think as you try things, you'll fall into a place where you find out what you like, what you dislike, and those can lead to opportunities that you might not have foreseen ahead of the time. So definitely following your instincts, both on a personal level and a professional level. I guess my second piece of advice, relatedly, would be to try everything because you never know where an opportunity is going to come from, and you never know who you're going to meet. And relationships really matter in this
Mhm.
industry and others. And the more you do and the more you try, the more people you meet, the more potential doors can be open to you.
Definitely. So, how'd you end up finally in the A&R role? I know that you kind of touched marketing a little bit early on.
I was a musician first. I was one of those people that moved to New York in the early 2000s, and I wanted to play music. And I was a electric bass player. I played guitar, and I joined bands, and I met people and put on shows. And I recorded for indie labels. I ended up recording a couple of things for Warner Brothers, Atlantic, and the whole reference point that I took when I started doing A&R was I had done it. I'd been a musician. I'd recorded in the studios. I'd played Bonnaroo. I did Letterman. I was in touring bands, and I used that experience as a reference point. Knew what it was like to be a musician and trying to navigate both the creative and the professional side of the industry. So it also gave me a little bit of credibility with some artists because had been there and knew what I was talking about and could relate to them at a creative level and on a personal level with what they were trying to achieve.
Mhm.
So I started doing marketing, and I just kind of had a natural affinity for the kind of creative process, and that's you know I worked for some people at Nonesuch that kind of saw the opportunity that was there and let me start scouting, and then that led to like more and more in doing A&R.
Mhm.
And even though I've had other non A&R jobs and certainly done a lot of other things, the foundational perspective that I have as being a musician and an artist when I was younger, full time, really does inform a lot of what I do today.
Mhm. That's great. All right, moving right along. Every industry has its dirty little secrets, and you and I both know that it's no different in the music industry. And sometimes people think that's a bad thing, but that isn't always the case. Sometimes they can be good. What's one secret you would like to share with our listeners about the industry?
That's a good question. Here's the secret. Nobody has any idea what they're doing.
True.
Everyone is faking it. I don't want to say all the time, but everyone is everyone is trying to figure it out as they go along. Uh, Not only does this business change so often and so quickly that you're just constantly faced with things that you've either never seen before or haven't quite literally existed before. So at some level, you're trying to navigate a new platform, a new technology, a new way consumers are behaving, a new kind of music, a new way of working with your partners. And then at kind of at a macro level, you're also dealing with like, I don't know how to respond to this situation. This isn't something I've seen before. And I think the people that fake it or act like they know what they're doing, um, are the ones that kind of seem like they're in control. But everyone is facing situations, whether you're an entry level person or whether you're running, one of the big music companies, that global music companies. You're
Mhm.
faced with things that you really just have no idea, and you got to figure it out. So I
Totally.
wouldn't let anyone who's feeling insecure about a situation or their role in things, don't let that be an impediment. Everyone feels that way.
Mhm. Is there a time that when you look back that you pinpoint like, "Oh, yeah, that was when I felt that way for sure."
Oh, several. I remember being quite younger. I think on my first day at Nonesuch, I had to meet with David Byrne, and that's I would can't say that I was a massive fan of the Talking Heads or David Byrne, but I was a 24-year-old kid, relatively even new to New York, and that was an intimidating thing to have to sit in front of him and act like at some level of his marketing was in my hands. That was a
Mhm.
little intimidating. Certainly when I got to Pandora and being the first kind of core music industry hire the platform made, there's a lot of situations where I was thrown into the fire about whether it be producing an event, which I didn't have a lot of experience with, or dealing with copyright law issues where not even the lawyers really understand it in some level. There's a lot of situations where you have to act like the expert when you're not, and
Mm.
um, then it becomes kind of routine, and you learn along the way, and that's the important thing is to learn and grow from the experiences.
Definitely. All right, well, with that, we're already at the final question. Throughout your career, I can only imagine you've been asked plenty of questions, whether for an industry conference, the media, or even a promotion. But throughout all of those interviews and all of those questions, I'll bet there was one that you've never been asked but would have liked to. So, what is that question and what would be your answer?
I feel like there's a lot of questions out there that hint around the margins, or I feel like are kind of irrelevant to the big picture. And I would love to get the question, what really matters? And the answer to that is both everything and kind of nothing. And I'll elaborate on that. What really matters is, uh, if you want to advance in your career and you want to get a foothold in this industry and you want to grow, it's really not enough just to be interested in music or interested in the business. I meet with a lot of or speak to a lot of college age kids or people wanting to make change, and their rationale for wanting to work in music is that they love music. But it's important to me, and that's certainly not enough. It's a competitive industry, and you have to show that you can provide value as a person working somewhere. So the advice that I got and the advice that I give is that it's not enough just to have interest. You have to actually go out and be proactive and start to create something cool, create your own value. For me, that was playing in bands and meeting musicians and playing as much as I could. And when I wasn't playing in a band, I would throw parties and shows in the Lower East Side and in the East Village. And it was meeting everyone I could meet. And then when you're hanging out around enough and you have enough relationships and you meet someone who's kind of in a position of authority to give you a job, they'll recognize the value that you could bring. In your case, it's starting this amazing podcast and providing a lot of advice and insight into how this business works.
Mm,
It for someone else, it might be, offering to be a friend's video director, manage someone's socials, manage a band. It's really important to be proactive and to create your own thing. That'll set you apart from people that are just kind of applying. And I think the hustle and the entrepreneurial spirit is what really matters.
mm,
That really, really matters. And that doesn't go away. Uh, no matter how long you progress in your career. And the stuff that I do now is, head of a major label A&R team, or some of the stuff that I did when I was an executive at Pandora. It really doesn't feel that different than when I was, 18 and throwing parties in college. There's a lot of skills I learned doing that, a lot of personalities navigating that, dealing with like even technical issues around setting up PA. and trying to get people to come to a party or advancing a band. It doesn't feel that different now than it did when I was 18. So the skills and the willingness to do all that matters. And when I say not, it doesn't matter. The details don't matter. The small things don't matter. Making mistakes doesn't matter, and it's really important to just to keep at it. And when you have enough experience and you're out on your own enough, you find out what you like and what you don't like, and you when you build something cool, you'll be rewarded for it.
Totally. All great advice.
There is one exception, and I learned this lesson when I was younger. If you lose more than $50,000 in a minute, you will probably get fired.
That
I
is
tell
true.
you, someone told me this my first day at Warner Music Group. Some poor intern had put in the wrong airport code for some rapper's private jet. The jet showed up at the wrong airport, and it was an honest mistake, but sorry, you can't work here anymore if you make a mistake.
Oh
That's that
my
much consequence.
gosh. I
So that
can't
might be
even
the only
imagine.
apparently the
Yeah.
plane I don't know who that was, and I hope that person is laughing about that story now and has found a long and productive career doing what they want, but,
Yeah. Or they're in
um
therapy. Either one.
yeah, or both.
Awesome. Well, Drew, it has been so great having you on tonight. I appreciate you taking the time to chat. And to all of my listeners, I know you enjoyed hearing from Drew just as much as I enjoyed speaking with him. So stay tuned for next week's episode of 3Q, where I interview industry professionals for just 15 minutes by asking 3 powerful questions. See you next time.